Welcome to the Vigor Life Podcast, a source of inspiration, lessons, stories, skill sets, mindsets, and strategies to invigorate and expand all areas of your life. Let's go. Hey, what's going on? It's Luka, Hocevar here. I did that little pause with the Vigor Life Podcast, and today's a special edition because we are with the man, the myth, the legend, Lil B, who is my good friend and my tattoo artist and a lot of other stuff, but a well-renowned tattoo artist. And I drove up here because I'm getting a tat, so you can see it's a work in progress right now. This beauty and everything that's on my right arm, except for this, dude. This is not Lil B, okay? We getting rid of this and going over it. But I wanted to make today's episode about mastery of your craft and how you can get to a point where you're doing what you love doing, get successful at it and just enjoy the whole process. And so thank you for being with us today, Lil B.
Thanks for having me in the podcast.
We're right in the Bio Travel, man. So this is pretty much the studio. We kind of rearranged it. But I wanted to start, man, because I wanted this show to be about for a lot of people, whatever they're doing. For me, I'm in fitness. For you, you're in the tattoo industry. But I would say look, you're more of an artist. We talk about this all the time. I think you're more of an artist than saying you do just tattoos, right? But how to get to a point where you love what you do and it's authentic. It's not oh shit, I'm trying to be somebody I'm not to get ahead and really excel. So I just kind of want to take you back to, maybe touch on your story, because you got a crazy story, man. But when you started tattooing, what did you do before you started tattooing? What actually pushed you and inspired you to start?
I think to me, I always had, since I was a child, since I can remember, I always had a connection with some type of art, so I was always drawing growing up. And I was kind of trouble kid, so I was always, yeah. So I was always more attracted by the street culture and stuff. So I was hanging out in the street a lot, and I was skateboarding a lot. That was my first love, And from being in the street so much, then as someone that's into art, I just looked at what I saw in the street, and I saw graffiti, on the walls, and all of a sudden I started to get obsessed with them. I was I don't know, I was passionate about it, and I would try to understand it. And next thing you know, I was myself writing in the street, So that was where I started to have true passion for art, and art that I found is cool. I was attracted by a cooler, what I like to call a cool style of art, and not just academical. Even though I enjoyed doing academical art, I like that whole forbidden kind of risky feel with it. So that's where I got in touch with art, and I started to truly have passion for it.
So graffiti was the first type of art that you started doing? Well,
I was drawing, but then graffiti was the first thing that I became obsessed with, and when it became a lifestyle, and more than just it took over my life. And it was the ultimate support for me, because it was forbidden, and there was that rush, the adrenaline, and the fact that you don't let people the choice. You don't give them choice. You just fucking hit the wall and that's it. And then the next thing after that, what could be a more extreme canvas than a wall in the street, is the body, human body. I mean, you cannot do anything that's more intense than that, So it's to me the ultimate canvas, and that's why I started tattooing,
So tell me, what do you think made you excel at it? Because I have my own theory and premise, and I think science behind what makes somebody successful at what they do. But what do you think? What do you believe that made you successful at it? But the mastery part of it, because there's stuff that you do that there's not a lot of people on this earth that can do. There's a lot of great tattoo artists, but man, the stuff you do is crazy. We talk about, I walk down the street, people stop me. It's alive. You know what I mean? It's more than just, it's cool art. It's it tells stories. You know what I mean? It jumps out at you.
Yeah.
But what do you think that the characteristics to what you do that really make that alive? And how long did it take you to get there? What makes you become that good?
Well, first, thanks. I don't even feel that good myself, bro. You're getting me like all fucking pumped out here. But I think, there's no secret to master something and get good at it. You just got to practice, and that's where like a lot of people fail sometimes. It's because they come up with all these theories and fucking like science, and they try to overthink everything, and they lack of practice, I mean, it's fucking like going to the gym, bro. You're trying to get ripped or get bigger, you gotta fucking lift the weight, You can read about blogs and fucking health coach all day. If you don't at some point apply and practice, then like you're not gonna get any results. So I feel like in my case that's where like, things like to get better, I just gotta practice and constantly like try to work my skills and see how I can approach things differently, try new techniques and question and like self-inquire about why this is coming up that way and what can I do to improve it. And so it's like a constant practice. And as soon as you think you know it, it means like you're fucking up. I constantly feel like I'm learning. Each and every single tattoos, I'm learning something,
And I think I'm glad that you brought it up because, it's practice, but I always say it's not just practice, it's deliberate practice, like how I used to play basketball and pro basketball. And so the analogy to me is the guy that's just like at open gym, just fucking around and shooting around and just doing whatever. But if I come in and I'm like super focused on what I'm doing, I get better at it, right? It's like when you're doing, I mean, I've seen you draw and I've seen you do art and I've seen you, do tattoos. It's like your focus is insane, right? And it's like, it's much different if I do an hour of intense, deliberate practice versus just like fucking around, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Like, how can you accelerate 10x? Being around, always being curious, and never feeling like you arrived, right? I mean, that's one of definitely. The things. Same thing, right? I feel I know more than I ever have, but I feel like I know nothing. Right? And I think that's kind of something that stops people in their tracks. Once they become good and somebody says, hey, you're good, or you're great, or whatever, and then you're like, oh, all right, okay, cool. And then you coast. And I think that's the beginning of death. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So I'm glad that you brought it up. But, what do you... Man, because for instance, when I came to you, I'd come to you with an idea, right? I'd always be like, yo, B, let's do this and this and that. And you'd be like, that's not going to look good. Let's do this. Yeah. And by the time we're done, we've changed a lot of stuff up and it ends up being like better to me. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff that, that we've done, everybody that I know that you've done work for ends up being better. Like how do you see that stuff? Is it just the time and the experience? You know what I mean? Like when you go like, man, that's not going to work out, or, how do you see things being the way that they are once you put them on the arms, you know what I mean, or wherever you're putting them on?
Well, first, like when I look at project like your arm, for instance, I got to look at like an overall thing. So I don't just look at the piece, but I look at how is it gonna look, the overall thing, and how is it gonna look like genuine and organic on your body, like you don't want to look like a stamp, and then it's like where it gets like a little tricky, but where it gets interesting is like to try to fusion like whoever you're tattooing's idea and put like your art skills and your vision, and combine it together. So sometime from your ideas, that's gonna like from bouncing back from your ideas, then I get like new concepts and like I feel like more creative if you bring ideas, So I just try to see the whole picture and I try to right away like see whether it's gonna work or not. So some people, they will come with like mad ideas and it's very like it's too much. They're trying to get it like they don't really have the vision. They think they have the vision, but they have more the idea. But like they don't understand like as far as a tattoo, this is not gonna look right on your arm. This is gonna look like too busy. This is gonna look like too crowded. So I think it's where like you gotta have that trust where clients are like giving you freedom and they trust you enough to go with your choices. But it gotta be like a back and forth with the client. It can be not only like me, no, fuck you, like I'm an artist and this is it right there. Yeah. It gotta be like, okay, this is your idea, so I take on your ideas and I take on your concept. But here it's what I think will look the best. And most likely people like will end up like trusting me because they come to me in the first place because they like the work that they seen me putting out there. So they're like, I'm like, yo, you want to get what you've seen on my social media? Then you got to kind of trust me on some of these points. And we come up with something that's usually it's like just a combination of both of our minds, you know? And so it gives that very unique look to each client.
Man, it's like there's, I picked up, so I'm listening to you. There's like 3 different lessons that I took from that I think can relate to a lot of stuff, right? One, you're looking at the big picture. Yep. So I would go as far to that, like in life and business or whatever, man. When people are just looking at the stuff that right in front of them and not like looking at the big vision, a lot of times the end result is not as good, right? 2 is, go with somebody that's the expert, right? It's like you see things that I can't see. Like I'm like, what do you mean this won't look good? And then you're like, nah, look, let me explain it to you. Let me show it to you. And then by the end, it's like, oh man. Like I learned a lot more, right? It's like I know a lot more about, this piece. And it's just like really great to hear somebody that has a thought process that's, and number 3, I'm kind of stopping myself, but number 3 is like working with the person. Right? I think in everything, like whether it's relationship, whether it's creating a product, whether it's doing business, for me, like being a coach with fitness, if it becomes like, nah, you're going to do this, it's not going to work out well.
Not going to work.
Right? But if the client goes like, well, I want to do all this stuff. And it's like, well, nah, you came here because you needed help. Yeah. Right. So it's like this 2-way relationship and figuring out what the best solution is. Right.
Yep.
So it's crazy. I love having, these conversations because there's so many parallels to what we do.
You can apply it to
just everything, right?
Everything. Yeah, definitely.
But moving on, like, you have definitely, at this point in time, with someone, a lifestyle, you create your lifestyle. You know what I mean? You're traveling the world. You're tattooing. You're based in Bordeaux, France. But tell me a little bit about like, how you like to live your life. Like, what was your goal? You are where you are right now, and I know, man, like you work your ass off. Like I think a lot of people don't know that sometimes you'll go 25, 22 days out of 30 days tattooing, and we're talking about 8-10 hour days of constant deliberate focus. So just so you know how much work this guy puts in, it's crazy. But you've also developed like this lifestyle, obviously, that you want to live, and I respect it, man, because it's you're going to places that you want to go to and experiencing them. But tell me a little bit more about that. Like what brought you to like, man, this is how I want to organize my life and how I'm doing things.
Well, like I just decided to live. So I choose life,
I almost want to pause there for a second. Decided to live. Man, that's deep. All right, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I chose life, So first of all, like growing up, I feel like I was fortunate enough that my parents always like raised me with that constant like open-mindedness and that feeling that like in life you can become pretty much whatever you want to be. And so I just treat life like a game. So to me, I just want to experiment as many things as I can, and I never want to get caught up on the thing where it's not like living anymore but surviving, and having to be like, just getting caught in the system to where like you're not living, you're surviving, so I always try to stay away from this. So in order for me to live, what do I gotta do? I gotta do things that I'm passionate about, so like art. And I feel like the world is like this, like how you call this, like game board, and like, fuck, man, like the world is huge and there is so many different cultures and different foods and different types of people. And I want to experiment all this, I'm not here for a long time, we're here for a short period of time. So I'm like, shit, this is here for us. Why not like jump in it? And if we can, if my work allows me to get get to travel and get to connect with people and I'm getting paid a shitload of money for it. I mean, like, shit, why wouldn't I take advantage of it? So then the whole thing is like, it's very easy when you have like job like we do, like the job that we have, you can easily, I feel like, slide into letting yourself go. And like, it's like this guy that has everything and then it's like never enough, or you need something more extreme to feel like yourself is living. So I choose like, instead of going down the path of like doing drugs and partying hardcore, and because I can't do it, you know, because really I'm my own boss. I wake up at the time I want. I go wherever the fuck I want. Well, I just decided the path where it's like more like health oriented. So, you know, like just like you, I meditate, I work out, and I try to take care of myself. You know, so this is this whole lifestyle that I generated for myself, where it's like trying to like be, you know, like aware of my body, aware of my spirituality, and be healthy, and same time being connected with the people that I love, and get to experience the playground, you know, like so the world, you know, and different cultures. So,
but do you think so? You know, that's a great point, man. Like, you know, something that I experience as you grow, as you do stuff. You know, do you see the kind of the block of once you've actually created something to like start holding on to that, whether it's money and assets and whatever, you know, like the material things, then you start getting scared about losing what you have. And it's like, I feel that, you know, because I see in you like not doing that, right? It's like, I think that the moment you start doing that, you stop growing. It's like, oh no, I got to protect everything I have, because then you're not exploring, then you're not pushing the boundaries, then you're not, you know, you're not going out there and going like, you know what, this is what I believe in, this is my vision. I don't really care about this because I can't grow if I'm holding on to this stuff. You know what I mean? And like I said, what's, you know, to you, I guess, like, what's the next step? You know, what's the vision? Like, what drives you right now?
You know, like, what's driving me, I mean, it's like, you know, I like to expand, obviously. But I think for me, so far, from what I realized, like expanding wasn't related to anything that's materialistic. You know, I've done the materialistic stuff, and I've done the, you know, you saw me, you know, like having the watches, the this, the that, but yeah, you know what I'm saying? But as far as for me, I think what I'm striving for, it's totally different, you know, so I stripe away a lot of things, and try to really stick to the basics and live as, you know, like the most simple and minimalistic lifestyles I can. And I try to have this cohesive all over my life, which means like the way I eat, I try to keep it very minimalistic and simple. The way I dress, the way I tattoo, the way I talk, you know, I try to keep it simple, you know. And I feel like, you know, it might sound a little weird, but I learn a lot from, like, I get inspired a lot by like nature. That's why I travel a lot too, because I feel like nature is, you know, it's like has a lot of humility, you know, like it keeps you like humble in a way, and it teaches you so much, you know. So I try to stick to really like finding, you know, like joy from within, and not try to find it like from like external stuff. And I think traveling so much like helped me with it, simply by the fact that, you know, the way I do a lot of backpacking too, so I gotta take only what's very necessary, so it teaches you how to what's important, you know, the things that you need. And then it's like when you go to a lot of third world country, or when by choice you decide to backpack and sleep in the streets and stuff, I mean, it gives you a whole different outlook on life, and like the human condition, and what it takes to be happy, you know. And I realized, I mean, I found out from my personal experience that the moment where I felt the more I'd piss with myself, where when I was fucking backpacking, sleeping in the streets in Japan, or like being in some lost island in Indonesia, or, you know what I'm saying? So this is where I try to find that balance where I have the freedom to go anywhere I want, whenever I want, and I'm my own boss, because, you know, I make a really good living out of what I'm doing. But in the same time, I don't want to get attached to like a certain lifestyle where like I feel like I have to spend or I have to own, you know? Yeah. So I feel this is where real freedom comes from, you know, when you have it, but it's...
But you're not attached to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's super powerful, man. That's actually really powerful, because, well, there's a couple of things, right? We both grew up in Europe, and I think one of the most fortunate things for me was growing up like that. My parents, like, we moved around, you know, and I got to meet a lot of different cultures, races, ethnicities, religions, and it gave me such a better understanding that, of humans, right? Like not judging different people. And I, if anybody, like I said, if follows B, make sure you follow him, by the way. Lil B Tattoo on Instagram, Lil B Tattoo on Snapchat, but he's probably got too many people following him on Facebook too, man. But, for a guy like that's successful, like I think that is so humbling, right? When you go, we just talked about, you were in India, and you're like, man, like, makes you realize that not everybody does have that same opportunity. We go like, hey, anybody can be anything. And I believe that, like, with that mindset and the hard work, you can like achieve, right? I mean, if you don't believe that you can't. But there's places in the world where you're like, man, it's a whole different struggle. It's a different, it's a different hustle,
different game.
But seeing that and being around that, like, it does humble you. Like it gives you a whole different perspective on, I think, people in general. And like, I love to travel, man. Like I think you're killing it with travel more so. But every time that I need to get grounded, I travel. And when I travel, I do get grounded. Yeah. And to where you're not like, man, I got to find the Mandarin 5-star fucking hotel down the street. You're like, man, I'm sleeping in the street and loving it, like feeling in touch with life, man. And and I think it's important because you never know, like, what could be taken away from you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things too, like being around, I mean, I love being around you, and I love being around people that, make me think outside of just like, hey, here's all this stuff that you can get. You know what I mean? Because I love being around people that make you grow in other aspects, like the way you think, the way, it's like even things like that. If somebody's hearing it, like, hey, travel the world, right? I love this quote. It says, all who travel are not lost, right? It's like, it's dope. And I think that's the case, is like, you're not wondering, man, you're learning and you're growing. And every single person, I believe, this is my opinion, should travel more and should go to places that, of people that maybe you judge or don't understand or whatever, because it's like, once you go amongst them, you get perspective.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And so that's really powerful, man. On that note, because we got to get back to doing the tats, man. It's like, what's next, man? Like, is there something in the projects? I know, like, you've been explaining to me. I get excited, hearing about it. I'm probably going to come down in the summer, but with your actual studio now in Bordeaux. But like, what else is in the works?
For the future, as far as like the tattooing, well, I just bought this condo in downtown Bordeaux, and this tattoo studio that comes along with it. So it's like under my condo, I have my tattoo studio. So I'm gonna keep traveling, but for the first time of my life, I mean, my situation. I was hiding, for 6 years in the States, being an illegal alien, So now for the first time in my life, I'm like really doing things legit. So I'm gonna have this like tattoo studio. I think it's gonna be very good for like Sergio and myself. To have this
like a home
basement, home base, where like you can step back and just like resource yourself and clear up your mind and stuff, because a lot of traveling sometimes gets like
it's tedious too.
It gets hard, man, sometimes, so I want to keep it half and half. So I want to be half of the year like back home, and like, I mean, basically it's just having this place where I can come back in between each trips, So I'm gonna be receiving a lot of people there. So it's like a lot of people flying from North America and everywhere from Europe to Bordeaux. So it's a good thing for us to be able to show them where we're from and show them the city. So deliver like a whole experience and not just like a tattoo session. And for the most part, we're gonna keep going like to our usual locations, Canada, London, the big cities, and and we're gonna try to go to some other countries where it's gonna be a little, like
Slovenia.
Yeah, Slovenia, of course.
Slovenia.
No, but we're gonna go to Brazil. We're gonna go to Australia. I want to go to South America. I want to go connect with the people. So we're gonna go to basically the way I go about it. It's just like, if there's a country that I want to see, then I just go, bro. And then if there's always people that get tatted there. So.
And the thing is, man, you said people, but I think, you get to meet more people than just about anybody, right? I mean, it's like, and
that's crazy.
And in a day, like, the stories. And I know, like, you know, a friend of mine that trains in my gym came to see you, Tony Smith, right? But you get to like experience all these stories.
Yeah,
like you get to really find out about human beings, like just being on, you know, the table. And I'm like 60 hours in, you know, and obviously we knew each other before that, but like you really get to know people. And I think that's such a big benefit of, like, man, any business, and just like human relationships are everything. I mean, like, you know, you can have whatever you want. Like if you take away friendships and loved ones and family, like what do you have? Nothing. No. And I think that, I mean, is that like a big part of it for you?
Yeah,
I mean, just meeting new people, man. And like,
obviously, well, I met like people like randomly during my trips, but when you tattoo someone, it's like a whole different ball game, because I mean, you got to think about it. It's like literally like needles that are going through your skin, and I'm like here, like, you know, in your body fluids, and there is your blood on my fucking gloves, you know, and I'm like tattooing you. You're going through some pain, and like we're representing your story for a lot of people. Most people, it's very meaningful. So, at some point, they gotta, like, you know, like deliver, like, you know, they gotta tell about their story, and they share it with me, and I'm here to listen, you know. And at first, I wasn't like necessarily someone that was a good listener, you know, or I wasn't like someone that was able to kind of like you know, like give my opinion on somebody's life. But then it became like, I felt like I became like a therapist, you know, where like the therapy goes both ways, because like to me, I listen to your story and I'll try to like, you know, help you as far as I can. And I'm only 25 years old. So, you know, like most people are older than me. So, but in the other hand, it's like a therapy for me too, because like you teaching me about your life, your mistakes, the things that you went through, the things that worked out for you. So I feel like this exchange is very intense. And since like when you get tattooed, I mean, you know, it is just like it breaks the bounds and like the boundary, and like straight up, like you feel like comfortable. If there's a good connection, it's like you might know the person for only 6 months, but it feels like you know him for like 5 years. Yeah. Because like he's tattooing you, he's marking you for life, he's changing your appearance for life, you know. And as I feel like I like to think I change people, not only like their physical appearance, but I hope and I like to think that, you know, like whatever I can bring, you know, like to their spirituality or life, you know, like that works for them, because I know I get changed and moved by pretty much every people that I tattoo, you know, they change me for sure.
You know, it's people, and the thing is like, you know, people still will ask, because, you know, obviously it's a big investment, but it's like the best is a big investment. I've never, like, you know, people go like, man, that's crazy. And sometimes like, how much was it? This and that, you know, and I tell them, it's like, oh my God, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, like people buy a car, they'll get rid of it 4 or 5 years later. People buy a house, they won't live in the same house forever. Like this is forever. And like, man, you know, my mom like years ago was like, as I was getting tatted up my other tats, you know, she's like telling me she's going to disown me, you know what I mean? I was like a trouble child and shit. But, you know, man, even when she saw this, she like almost stopped herself. Like, man, let me see that. She would like, let me see that.
Well, I fulfilled the mission.
You know what I mean? But it's like, it's a story. Like this is a story for me of a lot about my life, you know, in many ways. I mean, and to know it, you got to ask it. But the thing about it is, man, like it's skin deep, and it's like you look at it and you're proud because it's something that tells like more about you. I mean, so like that's why, like, I mean, this is just my opinion. Like I said, some people might like tattooing, some people might not. But regardless, we all like express ourselves in one way or another. You know what I mean? Whether it's hair, whether it's clothes, whether it's language, who we like, you know, what music we listen to. I think this is just like one of the, you know, done the right way, it's one of the most beautiful expressions of art, you know. And so that's always my answer. It's like, man, I feel proud when I look at this. Like I work my ass off to be able to invest in this, to express this story on me, you know. And like I said, I mean, there's, like I said, a lot of great tattoo artists, but to me, obviously, B Black and Gray, man, is one of the best. So, if you ever ask me, like, that's the answer. So you don't have to ask me again.
Thank you.
But we're gonna get back to the tag game because, like I said, hey, listen, this is money right here. This is money right here. Yeah. But thank you, brother, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks to you, man.
For being on the show. I think there was a lot of great insights on this one, man.
I hope.
And just let them know where can they find more about you, sites, social media.
So where I'm posting a lot, like of my current work, it'd be Instagram. So it's at Lil B Tattoo. So it's LILBTATTOO. The website is www.lilbtattoo.com. And from the website, pretty much you can access to all the social media. And I invite you to go to our YouTube channel. We have this vlog called The Show.
Oh, yeah. You got to check out The Show.
So weekly, every Mondays, we're dropping a new episode. So
the show is dope. The show you'll see, the work being done. But the shit is just fun. So it's fun. You see the mastery of the art. You see the people. It's just awesome. So make sure you check out the show on YouTube. And make sure, obviously, you check out Vigor Life TV or video podcast, and also go to iTunes. And we are out because I got to get back under the needle and, get that flesh
That's
going.
it.
All right, y'all.
Peace.
Peace out.